A $53,000 vase exploded against the marble floor. Victoria Ashford stood over the 19-year-old maid she had just backhanded into an antique table, her diamond rings still wet with the girl's blood. "Get up," Victoria hissed. "Get up and clean this with your hands." Maria sobbed on the ground, porcelain shards embedded in her forearms. Her cheek split open. Victoria's heel came down on the girl's fingers. Maria screamed. "I said get up, you filthy little—" A hand locked around Victoria's wrist like a steel trap. The new janitor. The invisible black man who had mopped floors in silence for 7 days. He was holding the billionaire's fiancée's arm in the air, stopping her mid-strike, in front of 12 witnesses. His voice was quiet, steady, dangerous. "That's enough." Victoria's face twisted with shock, then rage. From the shadows of the hallway, Alexander Sterling watched his fiancée's true face reveal itself for the first time. And in Marcus Johnson's pocket, a photograph burned against his chest. A photograph of his little brother James, who had died 23 years ago because of the woman now struggling in his grip. Drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story reaches. A $53,000 vase exploded against the marble floor. The sound cracked through the east wing of the Sterling mansion like a gunshot. Maids froze mid-step. The cook dropped a pan in the kitchen. Security guards reached for radios that suddenly felt useless. Maria hit the ground among the shards, her temple bouncing off Italian marble, her forearm slicing open on broken porcelain. Blood bloomed across the white floor like spilled wine. Victoria Ashford stood over her, chest heaving, nostrils flaring, every muscle in her body coiled with fury. "Where is it?" Maria sobbed, trying to push herself up. "Miss Victoria, I don't know what you're—" "My earring!" Victoria's scream echoed off the vaulted ceiling. "My diamond earring, worth more than your entire worthless family! Where is it?" "I didn't take anything. I swear, I never—" Victoria's heel came down on Maria's fingers. The crack was audible. Maria's scream shattered the silence. "Liar!" Victoria ground her heel, twisting. "You were in my room this morning. You touched my jewelry box. I saw the smudges." "I was dusting, just dusting, please, please." "Then where is my earring, you thieving little cockroach?" Mrs. Patterson, the head housekeeper, stepped forward. 63 years old, 12 years of service, hands trembling at her sides. "Miss Victoria, perhaps if we just looked more carefully, the earring might have—" Victoria's head snapped toward her. "Did I ask you?" "No, ma'am, but—" "Then shut your mouth before I shut it for you." Mrs. Patterson stepped back. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Victoria turned back to Maria, who was cradling her crushed fingers against her chest, tears and blood streaming down her face. "You have 10 seconds to tell me where you hid it." "I didn't hide anything. Please, God, please believe me." 10. "Miss Victoria." 9. "I have a grandmother. She's sick. I would never risk this job." 8. 7. 6. "Please!" 5. 4. Victoria reached down and grabbed Maria's hair, yanking her head back. 3. Maria was hyperventilating now, her eyes rolling with terror. 2. Victoria's free hand rose high, diamond rings glinting under the chandelier light. 1. Her hand came down and stopped, frozen in midair. Held by a grip so strong, Victoria's shoulder wrenched backward. The new janitor stood behind her. Marcus Johnson, 47 years old, 7 days on the job. He had spoken maybe 30 words in that entire week. He was speaking now. Let her go. 3 words. Quiet. Calm. Absolute. Victoria's face cycled through emotions like a slot machine. Shock, confusion, disbelief, and then something that looked almost like fear before it hardened into pure, crystallized rage. Get your hands off me. Marcus didn't move. I said, get your... I heard you. His voice never rose. Let the girl go. Victoria released Maria's hair. The girl collapsed, sobbing, crawling away through her own blood and broken porcelain. Victoria tried to yank her arm free. It didn't move. Do you have any idea who I am? Yes, ma'am. Do you know who I'm marrying? Yes, ma'am. Then you know I can end you. 1 phone call. That's all it takes. You'll never work in this city again. You'll never work anywhere again. Marcus's eyes met hers. Something flickered in his gaze. Something old. Something patient. Something that had been waiting a very long time. You can try. Victoria's face contorted. What did you just say to me? I said you can try, ma'am. But right now, you're going to step away from this girl. You're going to let someone tend to her injuries. And you're going to calm down. You don't give me orders. You're a janitor. You're nothing. You're... What's going on here? The voice came from the hallway. Every head turned. Alexander Sterling stood 20 feet away, still in his workout clothes, his face unreadable. He had been in the home gym when he heard the crash. He had come to investigate. He had been standing in the shadows for 60 seconds. He had seen everything. Victoria's transformation was instantaneous. The rage melted. Her shoulders softened. Her voice dropped 2 octaves into something warm and wounded. Alexander, thank God. She rushed toward him, her heels clicking on the blood-streaked marble. This man attacked me. He grabbed my arm. He threatened me. I want him arrested. I want him... Stop. 1 word. Victoria froze mid-step. Alexander walked past her without a glance. He crossed to Maria, who was still on the floor, cradling her broken fingers, shaking uncontrollably. He knelt beside her. Can you stand? Maria looked up at him with pure terror. In 3 months of working here, Mr. Sterling had never spoken directly to her. Not once. I don't... It's okay. His voice was gentle. Let me help you. He took her uninjured arm and helped her to her feet. Then he turned to Mrs. Patterson. Take her to the kitchen. Clean and bandage her cuts. Call Dr. Okonkwo. Tell him it's urgent. Possible broken fingers. If he can't come immediately, take her to the emergency room yourself. Yes, sir. Mrs. Patterson rushed forward. She and another maid guided Maria away, leaving a trail of blood droplets on the marble. Only then did Alexander turn to face his fiancée. The silence stretched. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 15 seconds. Victoria's smile flickered. Darling, I can explain. Can you? She stole from me, Alexander. My diamond earring. The one your mother left you. The one you gave me for our engagement. She took it. Did you see her take it? What? Did you watch her put your earring in her pocket? Did you see her walk out of your room with it? Victoria's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Well, no, but she was the only one who... Was she? Yes, she was cleaning my room this morning and... Mr. Johnson, Marcus straightened. Sir? You were working in the East Wing this morning, replacing light bulbs, I believe? Yes, sir. I was in the hallway outside Miss Ashford's room from 7:30 until 10 o'clock. And who did you see enter or leave her room during that time? Mrs. Patterson entered at 8:15 to open the curtains. She left at 8:22. No one else entered until Miss Ashford herself returned at 9:45. Victoria's eye twitched. He's lying. Is he? Alexander's voice was ice. Mr. Johnson, what exactly did you see Miss Ashford do when she entered her room? Marcus paused. He knew he was walking into dangerous territory, but he also knew the truth was a door that only opened one way. She entered quickly, sir, went straight to her vanity, started going through her jewelry box. After about a minute, she began shouting. Then she came downstairs. Alexander nodded slowly. So, you didn't actually look through your jewelry box until 9:45 this morning. Is that correct, Victoria? Victoria's face flushed. Well, yes, but that doesn't mean... And the earring could have gone missing at any point before then. Last night? Yesterday afternoon? Last week? She took it, Alexander. These people are all the same. They see nice things and they can't help themselves. They're... These people? Alexander's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire room. What people, Victoria? Victoria realized her mistake. Her mouth snapped shut. You mean the people who make your bed every morning? Who cook your meals? Who keep this house running while you sleep until noon and complain that your coffee isn't hot enough? I didn't mean you just stomped on a 19-year-old girl's fingers. You may have broken them. I watched you do it. She was being difficult. She wouldn't tell me. She told you she didn't take your earring. She told you over and over. You just didn't want to hear it. Victoria's eyes welled with tears. Her lower lip trembled. The wounded victim persona slid into place like a mask. I've been under so much stress. The wedding planning, and the caterers keep calling, and my mother won't stop criticizing every choice I make, and I haven't been sleeping and... Mrs. Patterson, the elderly housekeeper, stopped at the edge of the room. Yes, sir? In 8 months, since Miss Ashford moved into this house, has she ever struck a member of my staff before today? The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Mrs. Patterson's face went pale. Victoria's tears stopped. Her eyes locked onto the housekeeper with a look that promised retribution. Mrs. Patterson, Alexander's voice was gentle but firm. I need you to tell me the truth. Whatever it is, I promise you will not lose your job. No one will retaliate against you. You have my word. Mrs. Patterson's hands were shaking. Sir, The truth. A single tear rolled down the old woman's cheek. Yes, sir. She has. Victoria let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. She's lying. She's always hated me, from the very first day. How many times? Alexander asked, ignoring Victoria completely. Mrs. Patterson swallowed hard. I've lost count, sir. At least once a week. Sometimes more. Who has she struck? Maria, several times. The cook's assistant, the laundry girl. James, the young man who worked security, she slapped him so hard his ear bled. What happened to James? He tried to report it, sir. He came to your office one afternoon when you were away. Miss Ashford found out. And? Mrs. Patterson's voice dropped to a whisper. His visa was revoked 2 weeks later. Immigration came to the house and took him away. He was deported back to Guatemala. Alexander stood completely still. I see. Victoria was shaking her head violently. Lies, all of it. These people are conspiring against me because they're jealous. They see what I have, they see who I'm marrying, and they want to destroy me. Is there anyone else? Alexander asked Mrs. Patterson. Anyone else she's hurt? Threatened? Driven away? The driver, Mr. Collins. The chef we had before Marco. 2 maids before Maria. A gardener's assistant. Mrs. Patterson was crying openly now. Sir, We were all afraid to say anything. She told us she would destroy us if we talked. She said she had connections, lawyers, people who could make our lives miserable. Alexander closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had changed. The warmth was gone. In its place was something cold and hard, like steel that had been tempered in fire. Victoria. Alexander, baby, please. I'm going to ask you one question, and I need you to tell me the truth. If you lie to me, I will know, and it will be over between us. Victoria's face went white. Did you have James deported? The silence stretched for an eternity. Immigration issues are complicated, and he was here illegally and... Did you make a phone call? Did you contact someone? Did you use your connections to have him removed from this country because he tried to report you? Victoria's mask cracked, and behind it, for just a moment, Alexander saw something else. Something cold. Something calculating. Something that had been hiding behind her smile for 8 months. He was going to ruin me, Victoria screamed. He was going to tell everyone lies about me. I had to protect myself. You don't understand what it's like, being in my position, having people constantly trying to bring you down, jealous of everything you have. By having a young man deported? By destroying his entire life? He was nobody. He was nothing. He mopped floors and cleaned windows. Why do you care? Because he was a human being, Victoria. Because he had a life. Because everyone in this house is a human being. And you've been treating them like they're beneath you. Victoria stepped toward him, reaching for his hands. Baby, listen to me. I can change. I'll get therapy. I'll take anger management classes. I'll apologize to everyone. Whatever you want. Just please, please, don't let this ruin us. I love you. I love you so much. Alexander pulled his hands away. I don't think you do. What? I don't think you know what love is, Victoria. I think you know what you want. I think you know how to perform. But love, real love, doesn't look like this. Victoria's tears stopped. Something shifted behind her eyes. You're taking their side? Her voice was changing now, dropping the wounded victim act. Over me? Your fiancée? The woman you asked to marry you? I'm taking the truth's side. The truth? Victoria laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You want the truth, Alexander? Here's the truth. These people are servants. They exist to serve us. That's the natural order of things. The strong over the weak. The rich over the poor. Stop. No, you stop. Stop pretending you're some kind of saint. You built your fortune on the backs of workers just like these. You think your hands are clean? You think I said stop. Alexander's voice filled the room. Victoria fell silent. For a long moment, no one moved. I want you to pack a bag, Alexander said quietly. I want you to stay somewhere else tonight. A hotel, a friend's house. I don't care where. I need time to think. Victoria stared at him in disbelief. You're kicking me out? I'm asking you to leave for one night. 1 night? Alexander, the wedding is in 6 weeks. I'm aware. You can't just, after everything I've done for you. What have you done for me, Victoria? Alexander's voice was tired. Honestly, what have you actually done? Victoria's face contorted. I've stood by your side at every event. I've charmed your business partners. I've planned every detail of this wedding. You've charmed people. You've performed. You've put on a show. Alexander shook his head slowly. But behind closed doors, when no one important is watching, You hurt people who can't fight back. You destroy lives for inconvenience. You see human beings as less than human because they work for a living. He took a step back. I need to figure out if that's who I want to spend my life with. Victoria stood frozen. Then something changed. The tears stopped. The trembling stopped. The wounded victim act fell away like a snake shedding its skin. What remained was cold, calculating, dangerous. You're making a mistake, Alexander. Maybe. A very, very serious mistake. Maybe. Do you know how many men would kill to be in your position? To have me on their arm? To wake up next to me every morning? I'm sure there are many. Victoria stepped closer. Her voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. I've given you the best 8 months of my life. I've put up with your boring business dinners, your tedious charity events, your pathetic need to be seen as the good billionaire. I've earned my place in this house. No one earns the right to hurt people, Victoria. Hurt people? She laughed. I disciplined servants. That's not hurting people. That's maintaining order. I think we're done talking tonight. We're done when I say we're done. Alexander turned away from her. George, the head of security appeared in the doorway. Please help Miss Ashford collect some personal items and escort her to her car. Yes, sir. Victoria's face twisted with fury. You can't do this to me. Do you have any idea who my family is? My father plays golf with senators. My mother chairs 3 charity boards. I can make one phone call and— Good night, Victoria. Alexander walked out of the room. Victoria stood alone among the broken porcelain and drying blood, her hands clenched at her sides, her chest heaving with rage. Her eyes landed on Marcus. He hadn't moved from his position near the wall. He stood quietly, watching, his face revealing nothing. You. Victoria's voice was venom. This is your fault. Marcus said nothing. You think you've won something? You think you've accomplished anything? She stepped toward him. You're a janitor, a nobody, a broke, pathetic man who cleans toilets for a living. And you just made the biggest mistake of your worthless life. Marcus met her eyes. Maybe, ma'am. Oh, there's no maybe about it. Victoria smiled. A thin, cruel smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm going to find out everything about you. Where you live, where your daughter goes to school, every secret you've ever had. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. And when I'm done, Victoria continued, you're going to wish you had stayed invisible. You're going to wish you had kept your mouth shut and mopped your floors and stayed in your place. Miss Ashford, George appeared at her elbow. Your car is waiting. Victoria held Marcus's gaze for 3 more seconds. Then she turned and walked toward the door, her heels clicking on the marble. At the threshold, she stopped. This isn't over, she said, without turning around. This is just beginning. Then she was gone. The mansion fell silent. Workers began to emerge from their hiding places, maids who had pressed themselves into corners, cooks who had fled to the kitchen, groundskeepers who had watched through windows. They all looked at Marcus with something between awe and terror. Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Patterson approached him, her voice barely above a whisper. You need to leave. Tonight. Right now. Why? Because she meant what she said. She destroys people. It's what she does. The driver, the chef, James, all the others. She ruined every single one of them. How? She has connections, lawyers, investigators, people who do things for money that no decent person would do. Mrs. Patterson gripped his arm. You have a daughter. Think about her. Please. I am thinking about her.
Then go. I'll tell Mr. Sterling you had a family emergency. No one will blame you.
Marcus gently removed her hand from his arm. Mrs. Patterson, do you know why I took this job? The old woman blinked. What? Do you know why a 47-year-old man with a bad knee and a sick wife's medical bills would apply for a janitor position at a mansion in the wealthy part of the city?
I don't understand.
Marcus reached into his pocket. He pulled out a photograph. It was faded, creased, worn soft from years of handling. A young black man smiled at the camera. 17 years old, bright eyes, a future full of promise. This is my brother, James Williams. Mrs. Patterson frowned. 23 years ago, a 17-year-old girl accused him of stealing her jewelry. She said he attacked her when she confronted him. She scratched her own arms to create evidence. Mrs. Patterson's face went pale. My brother spent 2 years in prison for crimes he never committed. When he got out, he wasn't the same. The light was gone from his eyes. Marcus's voice stayed steady, but something burned beneath the surface. 3 months after his release, he took his own life. Oh my God! The girl who destroyed him changed her name, changed her city, buried her past, became someone new. Marcus put the photograph back in his pocket. Victoria Ashford was born Vanessa Morgan, and 23 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia, she killed my brother just as surely as if she had pulled a trigger. Mrs. Patterson covered her mouth with both hands. I'm not here because I need a job, Mrs. Patterson. I'm here because I've spent 20 years looking for the woman who destroyed my family.
Mr. Johnson.
And I'm not leaving until she answers for what she did. That night, Marcus sat in the small office near the service entrance, staring at the photograph of James. His phone buzzed. A message from Destiny.
Dad, I got an A+ on my science project. Mr. Rodriguez said it was the best one.
Can we celebrate this weekend? Marcus smiled despite everything. That's my girl. I'm so proud of you. We'll definitely celebrate. How about that pizza place you like?
Yes, you're the best dad ever. Love you.
Love you more, baby. Now go to bed. School tomorrow.
Fine. Night, Dad.
He put the phone down. 23 years. 23 years of working construction, saving every penny, hiring investigators, following dead ends, never giving up. 3 years ago, he had finally found her. Dorothy Williams, the former housekeeper from the Morgan estate, had contacted him on her deathbed. She had told him everything. The jewelry found behind Vanessa's dresser a week after James's arrest. The scratches Vanessa had inflicted on herself. The money that changed hands to keep the truth buried. And the final cruelty. When James had come back to ask why, Vanessa had called the police. Had him arrested again. Threatened him with more charges. 3 months later, James was dead. And Vanessa Morgan was living in luxury, about to marry a billionaire, treating workers like dirt beneath her designer heels. Marcus looked at his brother's photograph. I found her, James, he whispered. After all this time, I found her. And I promise you, she's going to answer for what she did, no matter what it costs me. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the mansion at 6 a.m. He found his locker broken open. His jacket had been slashed. His lunch had been dumped in the toilet, and spray painted across the metal door in bright red letters. Go home, knitter. He stared at the words for a long moment. Then he got a rag and started cleaning. From the window of a black SUV parked across the street, Victoria Ashford watched through binoculars. She smiled as the janitor scrubbed at the paint. Her phone buzzed. She answered without looking. "Did you find anything?" The voice on the other end spoke for 30 seconds. Victoria's smile faded. "What do you mean he changed his name? From what?" More words. Victoria's face went pale. "Williams. His original name was Marcus Williams." The voice confirmed. "James Williams's brother, the boy from Atlanta, the one who—" Victoria's hand began to shake. "That's impossible. That family had nothing. They couldn't afford to—" The voice interrupted. "How long?" Victoria's voice cracked. "How long has he been looking for me?" The answer made her grip the phone so hard her knuckles went white. 20 years? She ended the call. For a long moment she sat in silence, staring at the mansion where the man who had waited 2 decades for revenge was now calmly cleaning a racial slur off his locker. "You think you can destroy me?" she whispered. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." She dialed another number. "It's Victoria. I need you to do something for me. Something permanent." She gave instructions. When she hung up, she was smiling again. Marcus Johnson, Marcus Williams, had no idea what was coming. Inside the mansion, Marcus finished cleaning his locker. He put on his work shirt. He picked up his mop. And he got to work. Because revenge wasn't about rage. It wasn't about violence. It wasn't about matching cruelty with cruelty. Revenge was about patience. And Marcus Johnson had been patient for 23 years. He could be patient a little longer. 3 days passed. Victoria didn't return to the mansion. She stayed at the Ritz-Carlton downtown, making phone calls, gathering information, planning her next move. Alexander had called her twice. She let both calls go to voicemail. Let him stew. Let him wonder. Let him miss her. But Marcus Johnson, Marcus Williams, that was a different matter entirely. She had hired the best private investigator in the city, ex-FBI, the kind of man who could find a needle in a haystack and tell you what brand of steel it was made from. His report arrived on the 3rd morning. Victoria sat in her hotel suite, reading every word. Marcus Williams, born 1977 in Atlanta, Georgia. Older brother of James Williams, deceased 2002. Mother Dorothy Williams, deceased 2021. Father Robert Williams, deceased 1995. She kept reading. After James's death, Marcus had worked construction for 15 years. Married in 2008 to a woman named Sandra. One daughter, Destiny, born 2012. Sandra diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer in 2019. Died in 2021, 3 months after Marcus's mother. Victoria paused at that. 2 deaths in 3 months, his wife and his mother. She felt nothing. She kept reading. Medical bills from Sandra's treatment, $847,000. Marcus had sold everything, his house, his truck, his tools. He had taken out loans. He had worked double shifts, and still, when Sandra died, he was left with nothing but debt and a 9-year-old daughter. For the past 3 years, he had lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in the Riverside district, the bad part of town. He worked whatever jobs he could find: construction, janitorial, warehouse. His daughter attended public school. They lived paycheck to paycheck. And through all of it, he had never stopped searching for Vanessa Morgan. Victoria closed the report. 20 years. He had spent 20 years looking for her. Through poverty, through loss, through grief that would have broken most men. And now he was in her house, mopping her floors, watching her every move. She picked up her phone and dialed. "It's me. I need you to move faster. I want him gone by the end of the week." The voice on the other end asked how far she wanted to go.
Victoria looked out the window at the city below. As far as necessary. She hung up. Then she called Alexander. Time to win back her fiancé. At the mansion, Marcus was replacing a broken hinge on the service entrance door when Mrs.
Patterson found him. "Mr. Johnson." He looked up. The old woman's face was pale. Her hands were shaking. "What is it?" "Someone from Child Protective Services is here. They're asking about your daughter." Marcus's blood went cold. "What?" "They said they received an anonymous report, something about neglect. They want to speak with you, immediately." Marcus set down his tools. His heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. "Where are they?" "The front parlor. Mr. Johnson." Mrs. Patterson grabbed his arm. "This is her. You know that, right? This is Victoria." "I know." "What are you going to do?" Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "I'm going to tell the truth. That's all I've ever done." He walked toward the front of the house. The CPS worker was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. She introduced herself as Margaret Chen. She had a clipboard and a folder thick with documents. "Mr. Williams?" Marcus didn't flinch at the use of his real name. "Yes, ma'am." "I need to ask you some questions about your daughter, Destiny. We've received a report expressing concern about her living conditions and your ability to provide adequate care." "What kind of report?" "I'm not at liberty to discuss the source, but I will need to visit your home and speak with your daughter directly." Marcus nodded slowly. "Ma'am, I don't know what you've been told, but my daughter is healthy, happy, and loved. She gets straight A's. She's never missed a day of school. Her teachers will tell you she's one of the best students in her class." "I'm sure that's true, Mr. Williams, but we still need to investigate all reports." "When?" "Today, this afternoon. I'll need your home address." Marcus gave it to her. He had nothing to hide. His apartment was small, but it was clean. The refrigerator was full. Destiny had her own bed, her own desk, her own space to study. But he knew how these things worked. He knew that a determined person with resources could twist anything into something ugly. "Is there anything else you need from me right now?" "Just one more thing." Margaret Chen looked at him with something that might have been sympathy. "The report mentioned that you have a history of mental instability, that you've made threats against a woman named Victoria Ashford." Marcus's jaw tightened. "That's not true." "The report includes documentation, medical records apparently, a psychiatric evaluation from 2003. 2003? Marcus shook his head. "I've never had a psychiatric evaluation in my life." "The documents appear authentic, Mr. Williams." "They're forged." Margaret Chen made a note on her clipboard. "We'll look into that. In the meantime, I'll see you at your apartment at 4 p.m. She left. Marcus stood alone in the parlor, his fists clenched at his sides. Forged medical records. An anonymous CPS report. A woman with unlimited resources and no conscience. This was just the beginning, he knew that. Victoria was going to come at him with everything she had. But she didn't know what he had. She didn't know about Dorothy Williams. She didn't know about the deathbed confession. She didn't know about the evidence that had been gathering dust in a safe deposit box for 3 years, waiting for the right moment. She thought she was hunting him. She had no idea he was hunting her. That afternoon, Margaret Chen arrived at Marcus's apartment exactly at 4 p.m. Destiny was home from school, sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. She looked up when the strange woman entered. "Dad? Who's this?" "This is Mrs. Chen, baby. She's from the government. She just needs to ask some questions and look around." Destiny frowned. "Why?"
It's routine, Marcus said. Nothing to worry about. Margaret Chen spent 30 minutes in the apartment. She checked the refrigerator. She looked in the cabinets. She examined Destiny's room. Her bed neatly made, her books organized on a shelf, her science project trophy displayed on the dresser. She talked to Destiny alone for 15 minutes while Marcus waited in the kitchen. When she emerged, her expression had softened. "Mr. Williams, I want to be honest with you." "Please." "This report doesn't match what I'm seeing. Your daughter's articulate, well-adjusted, clearly loved. Your apartment is small but clean and well-maintained. There's no sign of neglect or abuse." "So we're done?" "Not quite." Margaret Chen lowered her voice. "The report was very detailed, very specific. Someone put a lot of effort into making you look dangerous. Do you have any idea who might want to do that?" Marcus hesitated. If he told her about Victoria, it would sound like paranoia, like exactly the kind of thing a mentally unstable person would say. "The woman who destroyed my brother 20 years ago is now trying to destroy me." "I might have made some enemies at work," he said carefully. "Someone who doesn't like that I spoke up about mistreatment of staff." Margaret Chen nodded slowly. "I've seen this before. Wealthy people using the system as a weapon against people who can't fight back." She made another note on her clipboard. "I'm going to close this case as unfounded. But Mr. Williams, be careful. Whoever filed this report has resources. They might try again." "I understand." "Do you have a lawyer?" Marcus almost laughed. "No, ma'am. I can barely afford rent." Margaret Chen reached into her bag and pulled out a business card. "Legal Aid Society. They do pro bono work for cases like this. If you get another visit from CPS, or if anything else happens, call them immediately." Marcus took the card. "Thank you." Margaret Chen looked at Destiny, who had returned to her homework. "She's a good kid. You're doing something right." Then she was gone. Marcus stood in the kitchen for a long moment, staring at the business card. The first shot had been fired. Victoria was coming for his daughter. That changed everything. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in 3 years. "Dorothy, it's Marcus. I need the documents. All of them. It's time." The next morning, Marcus arrived at the mansion to find Alexander Sterling waiting for him at the service entrance. "Mr. Johnson, may I speak with you?" "Of course, sir." They walked together through the garden. The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawn. "I owe you an explanation," Alexander said, "about Victoria." "Sir, you don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do." Alexander stopped near a stone bench, but didn't sit. "She's coming back. Tonight. I've agreed to give her another chance." Marcus said nothing. "I know what you're thinking," Alexander continued. "After everything you saw, after everything Mrs. Patterson told me, how can I let her back in this house?" "It's not my place to judge, sir." "Maybe not, but I want you to understand." Alexander ran a hand through his hair. "I've been alone most of my life. My mother died when I was 14. My father was never really present. Always working, always traveling. I raised myself, essentially, built my business from nothing." "That's impressive, sir." "It's lonely." Alexander looked at Marcus directly. "When Victoria came into my life, she made me feel like I wasn't alone anymore. Like I finally had someone who was on my side. Someone who wanted to build a life with me." "And now?" "Now I don't know what I have. I don't know who she really is. But I can't just throw away 2 years without giving her a chance to explain, to change." Marcus chose his next words carefully. "Sir, Can I tell you something my father used to say? Please. He said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Not who they tell you they are, not who they promise to become, who they actually are when they think no one's watching. Alexander was quiet for a long moment. You think she can't change? I think the way a person treats people who can't fight back tells you everything you need to know about their character. And the way she treated Maria was not a moment of stress, sir. It was a pattern. Ask anyone who works here. Alexander nodded slowly. I appreciate your honesty, Mr. Johnson. Most people wouldn't risk their job to tell me something I don't want to hear. With respect, sir, the truth is more important than my job. Alexander studied him for a long moment. You're not just a janitor, are you? Marcus felt his heart rate increase. Sir? I've been thinking about you since that first day. The way you held Victoria's arm, the way you spoke, the way you carry yourself. Alexander's eyes narrowed slightly. Men who clean floors for a living don't usually project that kind of authority, that kind of purpose. I've lived a lot of life, sir. That's all. Is it? The question hung in the air. Marcus knew he was at a crossroads. He could tell Alexander everything right now. The truth about Victoria, about James, about 20 years of searching. But if he did, Victoria would spin it. She would say Marcus was deranged, obsessed, dangerous. She would use his grief as evidence of instability. And Alexander, who still loved her despite everything, might believe her. No, the truth had to come out on its own terms, at the right moment, when there was no room for doubt. I'm just a man trying to do right by his daughter, sir. That's all. Alexander held his gaze for another moment. Then he nodded. Fair enough. But Mr. Johnson, if there's something you're not telling me, something I need to know, I hope you'll trust me enough to share it eventually. If there is, sir, you'll be the first to know. They parted ways. Marcus went back to work, but his mind was racing. Alexander was smarter than Victoria gave him credit for. He was already asking questions, already sensing that something didn't add up. The dominoes were starting to fall. Victoria returned to the mansion that evening. Marcus was cleaning the second-floor hallway when he heard her heels clicking on the marble below. He moved to the balustrade and looked down. She swept into the foyer, wearing a cream-colored dress and a smile that could have sold toothpaste. Alexander met her at the door. They embraced. She kissed his cheek. They walked toward the sitting room together, her arm linked through his. At the last moment, Victoria looked up. Her eyes met Marcus's. The smile never wavered, but something flickered behind it, something cold and knowing. She held his gaze for 3 seconds. Then she turned away and disappeared into the sitting room with her fiancé. Marcus went back to mopping the floor. 2 hours later, there was a staff meeting. Victoria had called it. All workers were required to attend. They gathered in the service hall: maids, cooks, groundskeepers, security. About 30 people in total. Marcus stood at the back, near the door. Victoria stood at the front, Alexander beside her. I want to start by apologizing, Victoria said. Her voice was warm, humble, perfectly pitched. What happened last week was inexcusable. I allowed stress to overwhelm me, and I took it out on people who didn't deserve it. Maria, especially. I'm so deeply sorry for how I treated you. Maria stood near the middle of the group, her arm still bandaged, her fingers splinted. She nodded, but didn't speak. I've spoken with a therapist, Victoria continued. I'm going to be working on my issues, learning to manage my emotions better. This house should be a safe place for everyone who works here, and I'm committed to making that happen. Some of the workers exchanged glances. Others stared at the floor.
I'm also implementing some changes, Victoria said. Effective immediately, all staff will receive a 10% raise. We'll be adding dental coverage to the health plan. And I'm establishing an anonymous feedback system so that anyone who has concerns can voice them without fear of retaliation. A murmur rippled through the group. I know I have a lot of trust to rebuild. I'm not asking you to forgive me overnight, but I am asking you to give me a chance to prove that I can be better. She smiled, that perfect, practiced smile. Thank you all for your hard work. You're dismissed. The workers filed out, whispering among themselves. Mrs. Patterson fell into step beside Marcus. Do you believe any of that? No. Neither do I. The old woman shook her head. A tiger doesn't change its stripes, Mr. Johnson. She's just learned to hide them better. I know. So what do we do? Marcus looked back toward the service hall, where Victoria was still talking with Alexander, her hand resting on his arm, her body angled toward him in a pose of perfect devotion. We wait, and we watch, and we give her enough rope to hang herself. The next evening, Marcus received a visitor. He was leaving the mansion after his shift when a black sedan pulled up to the service entrance. The back window rolled down. A woman's face appeared. Old, weathered, framed by gray hair. Marcus's heart stopped. Dorothy? Get in the car, Marcus. We need to talk. He climbed into the back seat. The sedan pulled away from the mansion. Dorothy Williams. No relation to his family, just a coincidence that had always felt like fate. Looked at him with eyes that had seen too much. I got your message. I brought everything. She handed him a thick manila envelope. It's all there. The original police report, the court transcripts, my written testimony. And this, she pulled out a small object wrapped in cloth. What is it? The earring. The one they said James stole. Dorothy unwrapped it to reveal a diamond stud. Vanessa's mother gave it to me when she fired me. Said I could pawn it since I was going to be destitute anyway. I think she meant it as cruelty, but I kept it as proof. Marcus stared at the earring. How does this prove anything? Because I had it tested. 3 years ago, when I decided to finally tell you everything. Dorothy's voice was heavy with old guilt. The insurance claim from 1999 lists a specific diamond. Unique cut, unique clarity rating. This earring matches that description perfectly. Meaning? Meaning it was never stolen. Meaning James never touched it. Meaning everything Vanessa said was a lie, and I have physical proof. Marcus closed his eyes. 23 years. 23 years of wondering if maybe, somehow, his brother had actually done something wrong. If maybe the system hadn't completely failed. If maybe there was some piece of the story he didn't understand. And now, in his hands, proof that James was innocent. That he had always been innocent. That he had died for nothing. Why now? Marcus asked quietly. Why did you wait so long to come forward? Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. Because I was afraid. The Morgans were powerful people. They made it clear that if I ever talked, they would destroy me. And after what happened to James, she shook her head. I was a coward, Marcus. I watched that girl lie under oath and I said nothing. I watched your brother go to prison and I said nothing. I watched him take his own life and still, I said nothing. So why now? Because I'm dying. Dorothy wiped her eyes. Pancreatic cancer. 3 months, maybe 4. And I can't meet my maker with this on my conscience. Marcus reached out and took her hand. What happened to James wasn't your fault, wasn't it? I could have testified. I could have told the truth. I could have saved him. They would have destroyed you, just like they destroyed everyone else who got in their way. Maybe, but at least I would have tried. Dorothy squeezed his hand. I'm tired of being a coward, Marcus. That's why I called you 3 years ago. That's why I'm here now. Use what I've given you. Make them pay for what they did. I intend to. But Marcus, Dorothy's grip tightened. Be careful. Victoria, whatever she's calling herself now. She's dangerous. More dangerous than you know. I know exactly what she is. Do you? Dorothy leaned closer. Did you know she's done this before? Not just James. There were others. At least 2 other young men who worked for her family over the years. One of them disappeared completely. Went to Mexico, they said. But no one ever heard from him again. The other had a mental breakdown. Last I heard, he was in a psychiatric facility. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. She destroys people. It's what she does. It's what she's always done. Dorothy's voice dropped to a whisper. And now she knows you're coming for her. She's not going to wait for you to make your move. She's going to strike first. Let her try. Marcus, listen to me. Your daughter. I know. CPS already came. Dorothy's face went pale. It's already starting. You need to move faster. You need to... A loud honk interrupted her. Another car had pulled up alongside them. The driver of Marcus's sedan swore and swerved. Marcus caught a glimpse of the other vehicle, a black SUV with tinted windows. Who is that? I don't know. Dorothy's voice was tight with fear. But we need to go, now. The sedan accelerated. The SUV followed. For 10 minutes, they wound through city streets, the SUV never more than 50 feet behind. Finally, the sedan pulled into a crowded shopping center parking lot. The SUV slowed, seemed to consider following, then drove past and disappeared around the corner. The driver exhaled. Lost them. Dorothy was shaking. She knows, Marcus. She knows I talked to you. She's been watching you. Probably watching me, too. How would she know about you? I don't know. But Victoria has resources, connections. If she hired the right investigator, they could have found out about the Morgan family's old servants. Could have tracked me down. Marcus looked at the manila envelope in his hands. I need to move faster. You're right. I was planning to wait, to find the perfect moment, but there is no perfect moment. There never is. Dorothy grabbed his arm. Go to the police. Go to a journalist. Go to Alexander Sterling himself. But do it now, before she can bury this again. The police won't care about a 23-year-old case. Then go to a journalist. Someone who covers wealthy families. Someone who would love to expose a billionaire's fiancé as a liar and a monster. Marcus considered this. Do you know anyone? No, but I know someone who might. Dorothy pulled out a slip of paper and wrote down a name and number. Samuel Okafor. He was James's best friend in high school. Lost touch with your family after everything happened, but I tracked him down a few years ago. He's a journalist now. Works for the Tribune. Marcus took the paper. He'd be interested in this story? He never believed Vanessa's accusations. Not for a second. He tried to help James after his release, but... Dorothy's voice caught. It was too late by then. Marcus stared at the name. Samuel Okafor. James's best friend. A journalist with a personal connection to the story. Maybe Dorothy was right. Maybe it was time to stop waiting. Thank you, Dorothy, for everything. Don't thank me. Just finish what I should have started 23 years ago. She wiped her eyes. And Marcus, when this is over, when Victoria pays for what she did, will you come see me? Tell me it's done? I promise. Dorothy nodded. Then she leaned forward and spoke to the driver. Take him home. Make sure you're not followed. 20 minutes later, Marcus stood outside his apartment building. The sedan was gone. The street was quiet. He looked at the manila envelope in his hands. 23 years of searching. 23 years of grief. 23 years of waiting for justice. And now, finally, he had what he needed to destroy Victoria Ashford. He started toward the building entrance and stopped. Something was wrong. The lights in his apartment were off. Destiny always left the kitchen light on when she was home. It was their signal, a way for Marcus to know she was safe before he even got to the door. The light was off. Marcus ran. He took the stairs 3 at a time, his bad knees screaming in protest. He reached his door. It was closed, but not locked. He pushed it open. Destiny? Silence. He moved through the apartment. Kitchen, empty. Living room, empty. Her bedroom, empty. But there was something on her bed. A piece of paper. Marcus picked it up with trembling hands. 2 sentences, typed. No signature. Your daughter is safe. For now. Back off, or that changes. Marcus's legs gave out. He collapsed onto Destiny's bed, the paper crumpling in his fist. Victoria had taken his daughter. The walls of the small bedroom seemed to close in around him. His chest tightened, his vision blurred. 23 years ago, Victoria had taken his brother. Now she had taken his child. History was repeating itself. Unless he stopped it. Marcus forced himself to breathe, forced himself to think. Call the police. That was the obvious move. But Victoria would have planned for that. She would have an alibi. She would claim she knew nothing. She would suggest that Marcus was unstable. Look, there were already CPS reports, psychiatric evaluations, a history of obsession. By the time the police sorted through her lies, Destiny could be anywhere. No, the police wouldn't help. Not fast enough. He needed leverage. Something that would force Victoria to release Destiny immediately. He looked at the manila envelope, still clutched in his other hand. The evidence. The proof. The weapon he had spent 20 years gathering. He had planned to use it to destroy Victoria slowly, methodically, publicly. Now he would use it to save his daughter. He pulled out his phone and dialed the number Dorothy had given him. Samuel Okafor. Mr. Okafor, my name is Marcus Williams. I'm James Williams's brother. A long pause. James Williams? My God. Samuel's voice was heavy with old pain. I haven't heard that name in years. I need your help. Tonight. It's about the woman who destroyed him. What are you talking about? Vanessa Morgan. She goes by Victoria Ashford now. She's engaged to Alexander Sterling. The billionaire? Wait, are you saying... I'm saying I have proof that she lied. Proof that James was innocent. And I'm saying that right now, tonight, she has kidnapped my 12-year-old daughter to stop me from going public. Jesus Christ. I need you to meet me. 1 hour. I'll give you everything I have. Where? Marcus gave him an address. I'll be there, Samuel said. And Marcus, whatever you're planning, be careful. If she's capable of what you're describing, she's capable of anything. I know exactly what she's capable of. He hung up. Then he made one more call. Mrs. Patterson? It's Marcus Johnson. I need you to get a message to Alexander Sterling. Tell him Victoria has taken my daughter. Tell him to come to the Sterling Industries building, roof level, in 2 hours. Mr. Johnson, what are you... Just deliver the message. Please. I will, but Marcus... The old woman's voice trembled. Be careful. I'm past careful, Mrs. Patterson.
I'm all the way to desperate." He hung up. He looked around his daughter's empty room one last time. Her science trophy, her books, her stuffed animals from when she was younger, still arranged on her pillow because she couldn't bear to get rid of them. "I'm coming, baby," he whispered. "Daddy's coming." Then he walked out the door. Marcus met Samuel Okafor in a 24-hour diner 3 miles from downtown. The journalist was already seated when Marcus arrived. A tall man in his early 40s with graying temples and sharp, intelligent eyes. He stood when he saw Marcus approach. "You look just like him." Marcus paused. "What?" "James, you look just like your brother." Samuel extended his hand. "It's been over 20 years, but I'd recognize those eyes anywhere." They shook hands and sat. "Thank you for coming," Marcus said. "When you said Vanessa Morgan's name, I would have driven through a hurricane to get here." Samuel leaned forward. "I never forgot what she did to James. Never forgave myself for not being able to stop it." "There was nothing you could have done." "Maybe. Maybe not. But I've spent 20 years wondering." Samuel's jaw tightened. "She destroyed the best friend I ever had, and she walked away without a scratch. Do you know how many nights I've dreamed about making her pay?" "I have some idea." Marcus pulled out the manila envelope and slid it across the table. "What's this?" "Everything. Police reports, court transcripts, witness testimony from Dorothy Williams. She was a housekeeper for the Morgan family. And this." Marcus unwrapped the cloth to reveal the diamond earring. "The earring she claimed James stole. She had it the whole time. It was never missing." Samuel stared at the earring like it was a loaded gun. "You're telling me this is the same earring from the case?" "Dorothy had it tested. The insurance claim from 1999 describes a specific diamond. Unique cut, unique clarity grade. This matches perfectly." Jesus. Samuel picked up the envelope and began flipping through the documents. This is everything. This could blow her entire life apart. That's the idea." Samuel looked up sharply. "But you said she took your daughter. That changes the equation. If we go public with this, she might hurt Destiny. I know." Marcus's voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "That's why I need your help with something else first." "What?" "I need you to run interference. Create enough noise that Victoria thinks she's under attack from multiple directions. While she's distracted, I'm going to get my daughter back." "How?" "I'm meeting Alexander Sterling in 90 minutes, on the roof of Sterling Industries." Samuel's eyebrows shot up. "The billionaire? Why would he help you?" "Because I'm going to tell him the truth. About Victoria, about James, about everything." Marcus took a breath. "And because I hope, he's not the kind of man who would let an innocent child suffer for his fiancée's crimes. That's a hell of a gamble. It's the only play I have." Samuel was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "What do you need me to do?" "Start making calls. Your editor, other journalists, anyone who might be interested in the story of a billionaire's fiancée with a secret past. Don't publish anything yet. Just create buzz. Make Victoria think the walls are closing in. And if she panics, if she does something to your daughter, that's why I need to move fast. The more pressure she feels, the more likely she is to make a mistake. And when she does, I'll be there." Samuel studied him for a long moment. "You know this could get you killed." "I know. And you're doing it anyway." "She has my daughter." Marcus's voice cracked for the first time. "She has my baby girl. I would walk through fire for that child. I would walk through hell." Samuel reached across the table and gripped Marcus's shoulder. "Then let's burn it all down." Across town, Victoria Ashford was having a very different conversation.
She sat in a private room at the Ritz-Carlton, her phone pressed to her ear, her manicured nails tapping against a glass of untouched champagne. "Is she secure?" The voice on the other end confirmed. "Good. And the father?" More words. Victoria's lips curled into a smile. "He's panicking. Perfect. Let him stew for a few hours. By morning, he'll agree to anything." The voice asked a question. "No, we're not going to hurt the girl. Not unless we have to." Victoria examined her nails. "I'm not a monster. I just need leverage." Once Marcus Williams agrees to disappear, to take his pathetic little evidence and vanish, we release the daughter and everyone goes home happy. The voice expressed doubt. "Trust me, I know men like him. He spent 20 years searching for me because he couldn't let go of the past. He'll spend another 20 years in hiding if it means keeping his daughter safe." Victoria sipped her champagne. "Martyrdom is easy. Parenthood is hard. He'll choose her." The voice confirmed and hung up. Victoria set down her phone and stared at the wall. 20 years. He had spent 20 years hunting her. She had to admit, there was something almost impressive about that level of dedication. Most people would have given up after the first decade. Most people would have accepted that justice wasn't coming, that the rich always won, that some wounds never healed. But not Marcus Williams. He had kept searching, kept digging, kept believing that someday, somehow, he would find her and make her pay. And he had. He had found her. But he had made one critical mistake. He had waited too long. If he had come for her 10 years ago, when she was still Vanessa Morgan, still living off her family's diminishing fortune, she might have been vulnerable. She might have been exposed. But now? Now she was Victoria Ashford, fiancée of Alexander Sterling, connected to the most powerful families in the city, protected by lawyers, publicists, and enough money to bury any scandal. Marcus Williams had no idea what he was up against. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alexander. "Someone named Mrs. Patterson says I need to meet Marcus Johnson at Sterling Industries tonight. What's going on?" Victoria's blood went cold. Mrs. Patterson. That old bitch. She typed quickly. "Don't know what she's talking about. The janitor is clearly mentally unstable. I've been warning you about him. Please don't engage." Alexander's response came 30 seconds later. "He's been nothing but respectful since he started. Why would he claim you kidnapped his daughter?" Victoria's fingers flew across the screen. "What? That's insane. I haven't kidnapped anyone. He's delusional, Alexander. This is exactly what I was afraid of. He's been obsessed with me since day one." A long pause. Then, "I'm going to meet him. Hear what he has to say." "Alexander, please. This man is dangerous. He could be planning to hurt you." "I'll have security with me. But I need to know the truth." Victoria stared at the phone. The truth. That was the one thing she could never let Alexander discover. She made a decision. "I'm coming with you." "Victoria, that's not a good idea." "He's making accusations against me. I have a right to defend myself. I have a right to face my accuser." Another pause. Then, "Fine. Meet me at the building in 1 hour." Victoria smiled. Perfect. If Marcus Williams wanted a confrontation, she would give him one. And by the time it was over, he would be the one looking like a lunatic. She picked up her phone and dialed another number. "Change of plans. Bring the girl to Sterling Industries. The roof. 1 hour." The voice on the other end questioned. "Because I'm ending this tonight. All of it. One way or another." She hung up. Then she walked to the closet and selected her outfit carefully. If this was going to be her final performance, she needed to look the part. Marcus arrived at Sterling Industries 50 minutes later.
The building was a monument to modern architecture. 60 stories of glass and steel that reflected the city lights like a mirror. During the day, it hummed with thousands of employees. At night, it stood silent and nearly empty. Security was waiting for him in the lobby. "Mr. Johnson?" "Yes." "Mr. Sterling is expecting you. Follow me." They took a private elevator to the top floor, then climbed a service staircase to the roof access. The door opened onto a vast expanse of concrete and sky. Alexander Sterling stood near the edge, looking out over the city. He turned when he heard footsteps. "Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming." "Thank you for agreeing to meet me, sir." Alexander studied him for a long moment. "Mrs. Patterson said Victoria kidnapped your daughter. That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth." "Do you have proof?" "I have a note." Marcus pulled the crumpled paper from his pocket. "I came home tonight to find my daughter gone. This was on her bed." Alexander took the note and read it. "Your daughter is safe, for now. Back off, or that changes." His face darkened. "This doesn't mention Victoria specifically." "It doesn't need to. She's the only one who would want me to back off. She's the only one I've been threatening." "Threatening how?" Marcus took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for over 20 years. "Sir, my name isn't Marcus Johnson. It's Marcus Williams. 23 years ago, your fiancée, her real name is Vanessa Morgan, accused my younger brother James of theft and assault. He was innocent. She lied. But he went to prison anyway." Alexander's expression shifted. "What?" "James spent 2 years in prison for crimes he never committed. When he got out, he was broken. 3 months later, he took his own life." That's a hell of an accusation." "I have proof." Marcus pulled the manila envelope from inside his jacket. "Police reports, court transcripts, testimony from a former housekeeper who witnessed the entire thing. And this." He unwrapped the diamond earring. The earring Vanessa claimed James stole. She had it the entire time. It was never missing. Alexander stared at the earring, then at the documents. "How do I know any of this is real?" "Have it tested. Have your lawyers verify the documents. Call the investigator I hired. His number is in the envelope. Everything I'm telling you can be confirmed." "And why would Victoria do something like this? What possible reason?" "Because she's cruel." Marcus's voice hardened. "Because she enjoys hurting people who can't fight back. Because she did it to your workers, and she's been doing it her whole life." Alexander was quiet for a long moment. "I've known Victoria for 2 years. She's never showed you who she really is. But the people who work for you? They know. They've always known. Ask Mrs. Patterson. Ask Maria. Ask anyone who's been in that house when you weren't watching." Alexander closed his eyes. "I've already asked them, after what happened last week." "And what did they tell you?" "Things I didn't want to hear." The roof access door opened. Victoria Ashford stepped out, followed by 2 men in dark suits. Behind her, held firmly by the arm, was a 12-year-old girl with terrified eyes. "Destiny." "Dad!" Marcus lunged forward, but the 2 men stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "Let her go!" Marcus shouted. "She's a child. She has nothing to do with this." Victoria smiled serenely. "She has everything to do with this, Marcus. Or should I call you by your real name? Marcus Williams. James Williams's brother. The man who spent 20 years hunting me like some kind of deranged vigilante." Alexander stared at Victoria. "You told me you didn't know anything about his daughter." "I lied." Victoria shrugged elegantly. "I've been lying to you about a lot of things, Alexander. But I was planning to stop once we were married. Once you had access to my money, you mean? Victoria's smile flickered. You've been reading his propaganda. I've been reading court documents, police reports, testimony from people who have no reason to lie. They're forgeries. All of it. He's been planning this for years.
The insurance records for your family's diamond earring aren't forged. I called my lawyer while I was waiting. He's already confirmed the claim numbers match. Alexander's voice was ice. The earring you said was stolen was never missing. You framed an innocent man. That was 20 years ago. I was 17. I made a mistake. A mistake that sent a man to prison. A mistake that destroyed his life. A mistake that led to his suicide. Alexander stepped toward her. And you never told anyone the truth. You just reinvented yourself and moved on like nothing happened. Because nothing did happen. Some random servant went to prison. So what? People go to prison all the time. It's not my fault he couldn't handle it. Destiny whimpered. Victoria's grip on her arm tightened. None of that matters right now, Victoria said, her voice turning hard. What matters is that Marcus Williams is going to take his pathetic little evidence and disappear. Forever. Or his daughter is going to have a very unfortunate accident. Let her go, Victoria. Make me. Alexander turned to the two men flanking Victoria. Do you know who I am? The men exchanged glances. I am Alexander Sterling. This is my building. Those are my security cameras recording everything you do. Alexander's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried across the roof. If anything happens to that child, I will personally ensure that you spend the rest of your lives in prison. Both of you. Do you understand? The men's confidence wavered. Victoria's face twisted with fury. They work for me! They work for money, and I have more of it than you ever will. Alexander reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. My head of security is standing by in the lobby. One word from me, and 20 armed guards flood this roof. Is that what you want? You wouldn't. Try me. The standoff stretched for 10 seconds. 20. 30. Then one of the men stepped back. I didn't sign up for this, he muttered. Kidnapping kids, threatening a billionaire. This is way above my pay grade. Get back here, Victoria shrieked. But the second man was already retreating too. Sorry, Miss Ashford. This isn't what we agreed to. They disappeared through the roof access door. Victoria stood alone, still gripping Destiny's arm, her perfect facade crumbling in real time. This isn't over, she hissed. I still have the girl. I still have... Marcus moved. 20 years of grief, 20 years of rage, 20 years of waiting. All of it channeled into a single moment of explosive action. He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides, grabbed Victoria's wrist, and twisted. She screamed, her grip on Destiny released. Run! Marcus shouted. Destiny, run! Destiny sprinted toward Alexander, who caught her in his arms. Victoria tried to claw at Marcus's face, her manicured nails leaving bloody scratches across his cheek. Let go of me! Let go! Not until you admit what you did. I didn't do anything. You destroyed my brother. You lied under oath. You let an innocent man go to prison. And when he came back to ask you why, to beg you for an explanation, you had him arrested again. You broke him. You killed him. He was nothing. He was a servant. He was... Marcus's grip tightened. He was my brother. He was 17 years old. He had a scholarship to Howard. He was going to be an engineer. He was going to change the world. Marcus's voice cracked. And you took all of that away because you couldn't admit you lost a stupid earring. Victoria stopped struggling. For a moment, just a moment, something flickered behind her eyes. Something that might have been guilt, might have been shame,
might have been the ghost of the girl she had been before she learned that cruelty was easier than kindness. "I didn't mean for him to die," she whispered. "I just wanted him to go away."
I just wanted everyone to stop asking questions. But he did die. And you never told anyone the truth. You just kept living your life like nothing happened. What was I supposed to do? Confess? Go to prison? Ruin my life because some innocent person suffered for your lies?" Marcus released her wrist. "Yes, that's exactly what you were supposed to do." Victoria staggered backward, rubbing her arm. "You don't understand. You could never understand. People like you think the world is fair. You think justice exists. But it doesn't. The only thing that matters is power. The only thing that protects you is money. I learned that lesson early, and I've never forgotten it." "You're wrong." "Am I?" Victoria laughed bitterly. "Look around you, Marcus. You spent 20 years hunting me. 20 years sacrificing everything. And what did it get you? Nothing. I'm still free. I'm still rich. You're still alone." Alexander's voice cut through the night air. Victoria turned to face her fiancé. "Alexander, don't." He held up a hand. "I've heard enough. I've seen enough. I know exactly who you are now." "Baby, please, I can explain. You kidnapped a child, a 12-year-old girl. You held her hostage to protect yourself from the consequences of something you did 2 decades ago. Alexander's voice was hollow. "There's no explanation for that. There's no excuse." "I was protecting US, protecting our future. Everything I did for—" "You did it for yourself. You've always done everything for yourself." Alexander looked at her with something that might have been pity. "I feel sorry for you, Victoria. I really do. You've spent your whole life hurting people, manipulating people, destroying anyone who gets in your way. And for what? So you could end up here, on this roof, completely alone?" "I'm not alone. You have nothing. The wedding is off. Your access to the mansion will be revoked by morning, and everything in this envelope," he held up the manila folder, "is going to the police. Tonight." Victoria's face went white. You can't do this to me. I'll destroy you. I'll tell everyone you—" "Tell them what? That I refuse to marry a woman who kidnaps children and frames innocent people for crimes they didn't commit?" Alexander shook his head. "I'll take my chances." Victoria stood frozen. For the first time in her life, she had no moves left, no leverage, no power. She was just a woman on a rooftop, watching everything she had built crumble around her. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "This isn't fair." "No," Marcus said quietly. "It isn't. Just like it wasn't fair when my brother went to prison for something he didn't do. Just like it wasn't fair when he took his own life because he couldn't live with the shame. Just like it wasn't fair that you got to walk away and start over, while my mother spent her last years crying herself to sleep." He stepped closer to her. "You asked me earlier what I wanted, why I spent 20 years looking for you. I'll tell you." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I wanted you to know what it feels like, to have everything taken away, to be powerless, to watch your whole world collapse and know there's nothing you can do to stop it." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Please don't do this. I'll give you money. Whatever you want, I don't want your money. I want you to face what you did, finally, after all these years." Victoria sank to her knees. The woman who had terrorized workers, destroyed lives, and manipulated everyone around her for 2 decades was finally, completely broken. And Marcus felt nothing. He had expected satisfaction, triumph,
the sweet taste of revenge that he had dreamed about for 20 years.
But looking at Victoria now, sobbing on the cold concrete, her designer dress ruined, her perfect makeup streaked with tears, he felt only emptiness. Revenge, it turned out, was a hollow thing. It couldn't bring James back. It couldn't undo the years of suffering. It couldn't fill the void that his brother's death had left in his heart. All it could do was create more pain. He turned away from Victoria and walked toward his daughter. Destiny threw herself into his arms. "Dad! Daddy!" "It's okay, baby. It's okay. I've got you." He held her tight, feeling her small body shake with sobs. "You're safe now. I promise. You're safe."
"I was so scared. They grabbed me outside the apartment and put me in a car, and I didn't know where they were taking me, and—"
"Shh. It's over. It's all over." Alexander approached them slowly. "Mr. Williams, I owe you an apology." Marcus looked up. "Sir?" "I brought that woman into my home. I let her hurt my workers. I was so desperate to be loved that I ignored every warning sign." Alexander's voice was heavy with shame. "Because of my blindness, your daughter was put in danger. That's on me." "You didn't know." "I should have. I should have looked harder, asked more questions." Alexander knelt down to Destiny's level. "Young lady, I am so sorry for what happened to you tonight. It never should have happened. And I promise you, the people responsible will face justice." Destiny looked at him with wide, tear-filled eyes. "Are you the billionaire?" Despite everything, Alexander almost smiled. "I suppose I am." "My dad works for you. He says you're a good person." "I'm trying to be." Alexander stood and extended his hand to Marcus. "Your brother deserved better. Your family deserved better. And I know this doesn't fix anything, but I want you to know, I'm going to make sure Victoria faces the consequences of what she did. All of it. The original crime, the cover-up, and what happened tonight." Marcus shook his hand. "That's all I ever wanted. Justice. Not revenge. Just justice." Behind them, Victoria was still on her knees, sobbing. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The night was far from over. But for the first time in 23 years, Marcus Williams felt something he had almost forgotten existed. The police arrived 11 minutes after Alexander made the call. 4 squad cars, 8 officers, 2 detectives in plain clothes who took one look at the scene on the rooftop and immediately called for backup. Victoria was still on her knees when they reached her. She had stopped crying. Her eyes were empty, staring at nothing, her mind seemingly unable to process what was happening. "Ma'am, we need you to stand up." She didn't move. "Ma'am." Nothing. One of the officers looked at his partner. "Is she in shock?" "Probably. Get the EMTs up here." Marcus watched from across the roof, Destiny still pressed against his side. Alexander stood nearby, speaking quietly with one of the detectives, handing over the manila envelope, explaining the situation in calm, measured tones. "Dad?" "Yeah, baby?" "Is she going to jail?" Marcus looked at Victoria, the woman who had haunted his dreams for over 2 decades, who had taken everything from his family, who had nearly destroyed his daughter tonight. "I don't know, Destiny. I hope so." "Good." Destiny's voice was small but firm. "She's a bad person." "Yeah, she is." "But Dad—" "What?" "You're not a bad person. You know that, right?" Destiny looked up at him, with eyes that were too wise for her 12 years. "Whatever happens, you did the right thing. You stood up for Uncle James. Mom would be proud of you."
Marcus felt his throat tighten. You remember what Mom used to say about Uncle James?
She said he had the biggest heart of anyone she ever met.
She said he would have loved me so much. He would have. Marcus kissed the top of her head. He really would have. Detective Sarah Chen approached them. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Williams, I'm Detective Chen. I need to take your statement. Of course. We can do it here or at the station. Your choice. Marcus glanced at Destiny. Can someone take my daughter home first? She's been through enough tonight. I can arrange that. Detective Chen signaled to a female officer. Martinez, can you take the girl somewhere comfortable? Get her some water, maybe something to eat? Officer Martinez smiled warmly at Destiny. Hey there, you like hot chocolate? Destiny looked at Marcus uncertainly. It's okay, baby. Go with her. I'll be right here. Promise? I promise. Destiny reluctantly let go of his hand and followed Officer Martinez toward the roof access door. At the threshold, she turned back. Dad, I love you. I love you too, baby. More than anything. Then she was gone. Marcus turned to Detective Chen. Where do you want me to start? The beginning. Tell me everything. So he did. He told her about James, about the accusation, about the trial, about the 2 years in prison and the 3 months of freedom that followed, about the morning his mother had called him, screaming, saying she had found James in his bedroom, that he wasn't breathing, that there was so much blood. He told her about the funeral, about the guilt that ate at him every day because he hadn't been there, hadn't protected his little brother, hadn't done enough. He told her about the search, 20 years of dead ends and false leads, private investigators who took his money and found nothing, nights spent poring over old records, looking for any trace of the girl who had destroyed his family. He told her about Dorothy Williams, about the deathbed confession, about the evidence that had finally, after all these years, given him what he needed. And he told her about Victoria, about the job at the mansion, about what he had witnessed, about Maria and Mrs. Patterson and all the others who had suffered under her cruelty. Detective Chen listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. That's quite a story, Mr. Williams. It's not a story. It's my life. I understand. She closed her notebook. I have to be honest with you. A 23-year-old case is going to be difficult to prosecute. Witnesses are dead or scattered. Evidence has degraded. And Miss Ashford, Miss Morgan, she's going to have expensive lawyers. I know. But what happened tonight? The kidnapping, the threats, the confession in front of multiple witnesses, including one of the wealthiest men in the country. That's a different matter. That's solid. That's prosecutable. Will it be enough? To put her away? Detective Chen almost smiled. Mr. Williams, she kidnapped a child and held her hostage on the roof of a building. We have it on security camera. We have Mr. Sterling's testimony. We have your testimony. We have her own words, recorded by Mr. Sterling's phone. Marcus blinked. He recorded it? Apparently, he started recording the moment she walked onto the roof. Said he had a feeling he might need evidence. Detective Chen shook her head. Smart man. So what happens now? Now we take her downtown, book her, set bail, or try to deny it, given the severity of the charges. And then we start building the case. Detective Chen put a hand on his shoulder. Mr. Williams, I've been doing this job for 25 years. I've seen a lot of bad people walk free because they had money and connections. But this one isn't walking anywhere. I'll make sure of it. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to be a long process. Trials, appeals, media circus. You and your daughter will be in the spotlight whether you want to be or not. I can handle it. Can she? Marcus thought about Destiny, about everything she had already been through. Losing her mother, living in poverty, being ripped from her home tonight by strangers. She's stronger than she looks. She gets that from her mother. Detective Chen nodded. Good. She's going to need it. Across the roof, the EMTs had finally gotten Victoria to her feet. She was walking between two officers, her hands cuffed in front of her, her head down. As she passed Marcus, she stopped. The officers tried to keep her moving, but she planted her feet.
Marcus.
He didn't respond.
I know you think you've won, but this isn't over.
Her voice was hoarse, broken, but there was still a flicker of the old Victoria underneath.
I have resources you can't imagine. Lawyers who have never lost a case. Friends in places you don't even know exist.
Victoria, one of the officers started, I'm going to fight this. Every charge, every accusation, every piece of so-called evidence. She lifted her head and met Marcus's eyes. And when I'm done, when I've destroyed your credibility, when I've made you look like the obsessed, deranged stalker you really are, I'm going to come for your daughter. Marcus felt his blood run cold. I'm going to sue for custody. I'm going to prove you're an unfit father. I'm going to take that little girl away from you, just like you took everything away from me. That's enough. Detective Chen stepped between them. Get her out of here. The officers dragged Victoria toward the door. This isn't over, she screamed as they pulled her through. Do you hear me, Marcus? This isn't over. Then the door slammed shut, and she was gone. Marcus stood frozen. Detective Chen touched his arm. Don't let her get in your head. That's what she wants. She threatened my daughter. She's desperate. She's scared. People say all kinds of things when they're cornered. You don't know her. She means every word. Maybe, but right now she's in custody. She's going to stay in custody. And you, Detective Chen looked at him seriously. You need to go home. Get some rest. Take care of your daughter. Let us handle Victoria Ashford. Marcus wanted to argue, wanted to follow Victoria to the station, watch her get booked, make sure she couldn't somehow wriggle out of this, like she had wriggled out of everything else. But Destiny was waiting for him, and she needed him more than he needed revenge. Okay, he said finally. Okay. He found Destiny in a small break room on the building's 60th floor, sitting on a couch with Officer Martinez, drinking hot chocolate from a paper cup. She jumped up when she saw him. Dad! Hey, baby, you ready to go home? Is it over? Almost. He hugged her tight. They arrested her. She's going to jail. Forever? For a long time, I hope. Destiny pulled back and looked at him. Dad, when they took me, she told me things. About you. About Uncle James. About how you've been lying to everyone for years. Marcus's heart clenched. What did she tell you? She said you were obsessed, that you blamed her for something that wasn't her fault, that Uncle James really did steal from her family and you just couldn't accept it. And did you believe her? Destiny shook her head firmly. No, because I know you. You don't lie. You don't obsess. You just love people. Really, really hard. Her eyes filled with tears. And I know Uncle James was innocent, because you would never spend your whole life fighting for someone who wasn't. Marcus felt tears streaming down his own face. You're the smartest kid I've ever met. You know that? Mom used to say that too. She was right. They held each other for a long moment. Then Officer Martinez cleared her throat.
I can drive you both home if you'd like.
It's been a long night.
Thank you, Marcus said. We'd appreciate that. They rode in silence through the empty streets. Destiny fell asleep against Marcus's shoulder, her breathing slow and even. Marcus stared out the window, watching the city lights blur past. 23 years. 23 years of grief and searching and hoping and despairing. And now it was over. Or almost over. Victoria was in custody. The truth was out. Justice, real justice, was finally within reach. But he couldn't shake what she had said on that rooftop. "I'm going to come for your daughter." He knew it was probably an empty threat, the desperate words of a cornered woman. But Victoria Ashford had spent her entire life destroying people who got in her way. She had connections, resources, a ruthlessness that bordered on sociopathy. Even from prison, she could make his life hell. Marcus looked down at Destiny, sleeping peacefully against him. He had spent 20 years fighting for justice for his brother. Now he would spend the rest of his life protecting his daughter, whatever it took. The next morning, the story broke. Samuel Okafor's article hit the Tribune's website at 6 a.m. By noon, it had been picked up by every major news outlet in the country. Billionaire's fiancé exposed. The 20-year lie that destroyed an innocent man. The article was devastating. Samuel had taken everything Marcus gave him and woven it into a narrative that was impossible to ignore. The false accusation, the prison sentence, the suicide, the years of cover-up, and finally, the kidnapping of a child to silence the truth. By 2 p.m., the mansion was surrounded by news vans. Reporters camped outside the gates, shouting questions at anyone who came or went. Mrs. Patterson called Marcus. "You've seen the news?" "I've seen it. It's everywhere. Mr. Sterling has locked himself in his study. He won't talk to anyone."
How is he? Devastated. Ashamed. Mrs. Patterson's voice was heavy. He keeps saying he should have known, should have seen who she really was. It's not his fault. Victoria fooled everyone. I know, but he doesn't believe that. She paused. Marcus, there's something else. The workers. They want to thank you. Thank me? For standing up. For doing what none of us had the courage to do. Mrs. Patterson's voice cracked. Maria, especially. She says you saved her life, that if you hadn't stopped Victoria that day, she doesn't know what would have happened. Marcus didn't know what to say. I was just doing what was right. That's more than most people ever do. Mrs. Patterson took a breath. Mr. Sterling wants to see you. When you're ready. He says there are things he needs to say. I'll come by tomorrow. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. She hung up. Marcus set down the phone and looked around his small apartment. The same apartment he had lived in for 3 years. The same cramped kitchen. The same water-stained ceiling. The same view of the brick wall across the alley. But somehow, it felt different now. Lighter. Like a weight he had been carrying for 2 decades had finally been lifted. Dad? Destiny emerged from her bedroom, still in her pajamas. There are people with cameras outside our building. I know, baby. They're reporters. What do they want? They want to talk to us about what happened. Destiny's face went pale. Do we have to talk to them? No, absolutely not. Not unless you want to. I don't want to. Then we won't. Destiny sat down on the couch beside him. Dad, is this going to change everything? Our lives, I mean? Marcus considered the question. Probably. For a while, at least. There's going to be a lot of attention, a lot of questions, a lot of people who want to know our story.
I don't like attention. I know, baby. Neither do I.
He put his arm around her. But it won't last forever. Eventually, the news will move on to something else, and we can go back to our normal lives. Will our lives ever be normal again? Marcus thought about that. Normal. What did that even mean anymore? For 20 years, his life had been defined by a single goal: find Vanessa Morgan and make her pay for what she did. Every decision he made, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, all of it had been in service of that mission. And now, the mission was over. What was left? I don't know, he admitted. But I know this. Whatever happens next, we're going to face it together. You and me. That's what matters. Destiny leaned against him. Dad? Yeah? I'm glad you didn't give up. On Uncle James, I mean. I'm glad you kept fighting. Me too, baby. Me too. They sat together in silence, watching the sunlight creep across the floor. Outside, the reporters continued their vigil. But inside the small apartment, for the first time in 23 years, there was peace. That afternoon, Marcus got a call from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Williams, this is Thomas Reed. I'm an attorney. Marcus tensed. If Victoria Ashford sent you, I don't represent Miss Ashford. I represent Alexander Sterling. Reed's voice was calm, professional. Mr. Sterling has asked me to reach out to you regarding a matter of some importance. What matter? He would prefer to discuss it in person. Would you be available to meet tomorrow morning, say 10 o'clock, at the Sterling Industries building? Marcus hesitated. What's this about? I'm not at liberty to discuss the details over the phone, but I can assure you, Mr. Williams, this meeting is in your best interest. Mr. Sterling has authorized me to tell you that much. Marcus thought about it. Fine. 10 o'clock. Excellent. I'll have a car sent to pick you up. That's not necessary. Mr. Sterling insists. After everything that's happened, he wants to ensure your safety. Reed paused. There have been threats against you and your daughter. Nothing credible yet, but we're taking precautions. Marcus's blood went cold. What kind of threats? Online, mostly. Supporters of Miss Ashford who believe she's being framed. It's nothing to be overly concerned about, but Mr. Sterling felt you should know. I see. The car will be there at 9:30. Please be ready. Reed hung up. Marcus stared at the phone. Threats. People who believed Victoria was innocent, that he was the villain. He should have expected this. In the age of social media, everyone was a detective. Everyone had an opinion, and some people would defend the indefensible simply because they had decided to. But it still unsettled him. He had spent 20 years as a ghost, invisible, unknown. Now his face was on every news channel in the country. His name was trending on Twitter. His entire life had been dragged into the spotlight, and some people wanted him dead for it. Dad? Destiny appeared in the kitchen doorway. You okay? You look weird. Marcus forced a smile. I'm fine, baby. Just tired. You want me to make dinner? I can do pasta. I'm getting better at it. That sounds great. He watched her move around the kitchen, pulling out pots and ingredients, humming to herself. So young, so innocent, so unaware of the darkness that was still circling their lives. Marcus made a decision. Whatever threats were out there, whatever dangers still lurked, he would face them. He would protect his daughter. He would not let Victoria Ashford, or anyone else, take anything more from him. He had lost his brother. He had lost his wife. He had lost his mother. He would not lose Destiny. Not while he still had breath in his body. The next morning,
The car arrived exactly at 9:30.
It was a black Mercedes with tinted windows and a driver who looked like he could bench press a small truck. He introduced himself as Gerald. "Mr. Sterling wanted me to assure you that security will be tight at the building. No one will bother you." "Thank you." Also, Gerald reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "He asked me to give you this. Said you should read it before the meeting." Marcus took the envelope, but didn't open it. They drove through the city in silence. The morning traffic was light, and they made good time. As they approached Sterling Industries, Marcus finally opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with Alexander Sterling's handwriting. "Marcus, there are things I need to say to you that are difficult to put into words. I have spent the last 48 hours learning the truth about the woman I plan to marry, and I am struggling to process what I have discovered. I know an apology isn't enough. I know words can't undo the damage that was done to your brother, to your family, to you. But I want you to know that I am committed to doing whatever I can to make things right. Today's meeting is not about business. It's about justice, about honor, about the debt I owe to people I never knew, but whose lives were destroyed by someone I loved. I hope you will hear me out." Alexander Sterling Marcus read the letter twice. Then he folded it and put it back in the envelope. The car pulled into an underground parking garage beneath the Sterling Industries building. Gerald led Marcus to a private elevator that required a key card to operate. They rode up in silence. The doors opened onto a floor Marcus hadn't seen before. It was quieter than the rest of the building. Fewer offices, more conference rooms, artwork on the walls that probably cost more than his entire life savings. Thomas Reed was waiting for him. "Mr. Williams, thank you for coming." He gestured toward a set of double doors at the end of the hallway. "Mr. Sterling is waiting for you in his private office." Marcus walked toward the doors. He paused with his hand on the handle. 23 years of searching. 23 years of fighting. And now he was about to walk into the office of a billionaire who wanted to talk about justice. He took a deep breath and pushed open the door. Alexander Sterling sat behind a massive oak desk, looking like he hadn't slept in days. There were dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his jaw, and a weariness in his expression that Marcus recognized. It was the look of a man whose entire world had collapsed. "Mr. Williams." Alexander stood and extended his hand. "Thank you for coming." Marcus shook it. "Your letter said you wanted to talk about justice." "I do." Alexander gestured to a chair. "Please, sit." Marcus sat. Alexander returned to his seat behind the desk, but didn't speak immediately. He stared at his hands, seemed to gather his thoughts, and finally looked up. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. About Victoria. About your brother. About the role I played in all of this." "You didn't play any role. You didn't know." "That's what everyone keeps telling me. But I should have known." Alexander's voice was heavy with self-recrimination. There were signs. Things she said. The way the workers acted around her. I chose not to see them because I wanted to believe I had finally found someone who loved me. Victoria is very good at making people see what she wants them to see. Yes, she is. Alexander took a breath. But that's not why I asked you here. I asked you here because I want to do something. Something concrete. Something that actually helps. What do you mean? Alexander opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a folder. I've been in contact with my legal team. We found 3 other families who were affected by Victoria, by Vanessa Morgan, over the years. Other workers she accused falsely. Other lives she destroyed. Marcus felt his heart rate increase. Other victims? Yes. One man who worked for her family in 2004. He was accused of theft,
fired without severance, and blacklisted from every job in his industry. He died in poverty 5 years later. Alexander's jaw tightened. A woman in 2011 who Victoria accused of assault after a minor disagreement. She spent 6 months in jail before the charges were dropped.
My God.
And James, of course. Your brother. The first. The one who started it all. Alexander met Marcus's eyes. I want to set up a fund, a foundation in their names, to help people who have been falsely accused, who can't afford legal representation, who have been crushed by a system that favors the wealthy. Marcus was speechless. I've already committed $50 million of my personal fortune.
I want it to be called the Williams Justice Foundation. Alexander slid the folder across the desk. I want you to run it. Marcus stared at the folder without touching it. Mr. Sterling, Alexander, please. Alexander. Marcus shook his head slowly. I'm a janitor. I barely finished high school. I don't know anything about running a foundation. You know about justice. You know about fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. You know what it's like to spend decades searching for truth when everyone tells you to give up. Alexander leaned forward. Those are the only qualifications that matter. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Alexander's voice softened. Let me help you help others. Let me try to make something good come from all this pain. Marcus looked at the folder. Inside was everything. The legal documents, the financial projections, the mission statement. $50 million dedicated to helping people like James. People like him. He thought about his brother, about the boy who had wanted to be an engineer, who had dreams and hopes and a future that was stolen before it could begin. He thought about Dorothy Williams, dying in hospice, spending her last days trying to make amends. He thought about Maria, with her bandaged arm and broken fingers, still showing up to work because she had a grandmother to support. He thought about all the invisible people who suffered in silence because they didn't have money or power or connections. And he thought about destiny, about what kind of world he wanted her to grow up in. Yes, he said finally. Yes, I'll do it. Alexander's face broke into the first genuine smile Marcus had seen from him. Thank you. Thank you, Marcus. He reached across the desk and they shook hands. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't absolution. It wasn't a happy ending wrapped up in a bow. But it was something. 6 months passed. The trial of Victoria Ashford, born Vanessa Morgan, became the most watched legal proceeding in the country. Every major network carried it live. Every tabloid ran daily updates. Social media exploded with opinions, theories, and endless debate. Marcus testified on the third day. He wore the same suit he had worn to his wife's funeral, the only suit he owned. His hands trembled as he took the oath, but his voice was steady when he began to speak. He told them about James, not the victim, not the case file, not the statistics. He told them about his brother. He told them about the boy who used to wake up at 5 a.m. to study before school because he wanted to be the first person in their family to go to college. The boy who spent his summer earnings on birthday gifts for their mother instead of things for himself. The boy who once walked 3 miles in the rain to bring soup to a sick neighbor because he couldn't stand the thought of anyone suffering alone. He told them about the day James got his scholarship letter, how he had run through the house screaming, waving the paper in the air, tears streaming down his face, how their mother had collapsed into a chair and sobbed with joy, how Marcus had lifted his little brother off the ground and spun him around, both of them laughing so hard they could barely breathe. He told them about the accusation, the arrest, the trial, the way James had looked at him through the courtroom glass, confused, and terrified, asking without words, "Why is this happening to me?" He told them about the prison visits, how James had grown thinner each time, how the light in his eyes had slowly dimmed, how he had stopped talking about the future because he no longer believed he had one. He told them about the release, the 3 months of freedom that weren't really freedom at all, the nightmares, the panic attacks, the way James would flinch whenever someone raised their voice. And he told them about the morning, the phone call from his mother, the drive to the house, the bedroom door that wouldn't open, the blood, so much blood. By the time Marcus finished, half the jury was crying. The prosecutor had tears in her eyes. Even the judge had to take a moment to compose himself. Victoria sat at the defense table, stone-faced, showing nothing. But Marcus saw something flicker behind her eyes when he looked at her directly. Fear. She was afraid. Good. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Dorothy Williams testified via video link from her hospice bed. She was barely strong enough to speak, but her words were clear and damning. She told them about the earring, about the scratches Victoria had inflicted on herself, about the cover-up that had destroyed an innocent young man. She died 4 days after her testimony. Marcus was there when she passed. He held her hand as she took her final breaths, and he whispered something in her ear that only she could hear. "It's done, Dorothy. It's finally done." She smiled. Then she was gone. Mrs. Patterson testified about Victoria's behavior at the mansion. Maria testified about the abuse she had suffered. Worker after worker took the stand and told their stories. Stories of cruelty, humiliation, and terror that painted a picture of a woman who viewed other human beings as objects to be used and discarded. Alexander Sterling testified about the night on the rooftop. He played the recording he had made on his phone. The jury heard Victoria's voice, cold and calculating, threatening a child. Victoria's defense team tried everything. They attacked Marcus's credibility, called him obsessed, delusional, a man so consumed by grief that he had constructed an elaborate fantasy to explain his brother's death. They questioned Dorothy's testimony, said she was a bitter old woman seeking revenge on a family that had fired her decades ago. They produced expert witnesses who testified that the evidence had been contaminated, that the documents were unreliable, that the case was built on sand. But the recording was impossible to explain away. Victoria's own voice, her own words, her own admission that she would hurt a child to protect herself. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, Marcus was sitting in the front row of the gallery, Destiny beside him, her hand gripping his so tightly his fingers went numb. The foreman stood. "On the count of kidnapping in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty." Destiny squeezed harder. "On the count of making terroristic threats, we find the defendant guilty." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. "On the count of obstruction of justice in connection with the 1999 case of James Williams, we find the defendant guilty." A sob escaped his chest. The foreman continued through 5 more charges. Guilty on all counts. Victoria showed no reaction. She sat perfectly still, her face a mask, her eyes fixed on some point in the distance that no one else could see. The judge scheduled sentencing for the following month. As the guards led Victoria away, she passed within 3 feet of Marcus. She stopped. "You think this changes anything?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried through the silent courtroom. "Your brother is still dead. Your family is still destroyed. And I got to live 23 years of freedom while you rotted in grief." Marcus stood slowly. "You're right. James is still dead.
Nothing changes that. He met her eyes without flinching. But my daughter is watching, and she's going to grow up knowing that when someone does wrong, they face consequences. She's going to grow up knowing that the truth matters, that justice is possible, even when it takes decades. Victoria's mask cracked slightly. You think you've won. I haven't won anything.
There are no winners here. Marcus's voice was steady. But for the first time in 23 years, I can sleep at night. I can look at my brother's photograph without feeling like I failed him. I can tell my daughter stories about her uncle without choking on my own guilt. He leaned closer. You wanted to know what this changes? It changes me. It changes my daughter. It changes every person who watched this trial and learned that the rich and powerful aren't untouchable. That's what it changes. Victoria stared at him for a long moment. Then the guards pulled her away. She didn't look back. 1 month later, Victoria Ashford was sentenced to 27 years in federal prison. She would be eligible for parole in 18 years. She would be 63 years old. Marcus watched the sentencing from the same seat in the gallery. Destiny was in school. He had insisted on it. Insisted that her life continue as normally as possible, despite everything. When the judge pronounced the sentence, Marcus felt something release inside him. Something he had been carrying for so long, he had forgotten it was there. He bowed his head, and he cried. Not tears of joy, not tears of triumph, tears of grief, of release, of exhaustion. 23 years. 23 years of carrying his brother's death on his shoulders. 23 years of searching, hoping, despairing, and searching again. It was over. Finally, impossibly, mercifully over. After the sentencing, Alexander Sterling found him outside the courthouse. Marcus. Marcus wiped his eyes. Alexander, how do you feel? I don't know. Empty, I think. But a good kind of empty. Marcus shook his head slowly. I've been so full of anger for so long. It feels strange to not have it anymore. What will you do now? Marcus thought about the question. Go home? Hug my daughter? Make dinner? He almost smiled. The Williams Justice Foundation officially launches next month.
There's a lot of work to do.
There is. Alexander extended his hand. I'm proud of you, Marcus. What you did, what you sacrificed. It took more courage than most people will ever have. Marcus shook his hand. I'm not brave. I'm just stubborn. Sometimes that's the same thing. They stood in silence for a moment. Two men from different worlds, connected by tragedy and transformed by truth. Will you visit her? Marcus asked. Victoria, I mean. Alexander's expression darkened. No, I've said everything I need to say to her. He paused. But I've started seeing a therapist, working through everything, trying to understand how I could have loved someone so capable of cruelty. That's good. That's healthy. It's necessary. Alexander took a breath. I've made a lot of changes, at the company, at the mansion, the way I treat people, the way I see the world. He met Marcus's eyes. You taught me something, Marcus. That day in the hallway, when you grabbed Victoria's arm. You taught me that doing the right thing isn't about money or power or position. It's about being willing to stand up when everyone else looks away. I didn't teach you anything. You already had it inside you. You just needed a reason to find it. Alexander almost smiled. Maybe, but I'm grateful either way. They parted ways outside the courthouse. Marcus drove home through streets that looked different somehow. Brighter, less threatening. Like the city itself had changed while he wasn't looking. Or maybe he was the one who had changed. He pulled into the parking lot of his apartment building and sat in the car for a long moment, staring at the brick facade. This was where he had lived for 3 years, where he had raised Destiny through poverty and grief, where he had spent countless nights planning, scheming, preparing for the confrontation that had finally come. It was time for a new chapter. The Williams Justice Foundation had offered him a salary, a real salary, enough to move to a better neighborhood, enough to give Destiny her own room in an apartment that didn't have water stains on the ceiling, enough to start living instead of just surviving. He got out of the car and walked toward the building. Destiny was waiting for him at the apartment door.
Dad, how was it? What happened? Is she going to prison forever?
27 years. Destiny's eyes went wide.
That's a long time.
Yes, it is.
Are you happy?
Marcus considered the question. I'm relieved. I'm grateful. I'm exhausted. He put his hand on her shoulder. But happy? I don't know if happy is the right word. Your uncle is still gone. Nothing changes that. Destiny nodded slowly.
But Dad?
Yeah?
I think Uncle James would be proud of you. For not giving up. For fighting for him all these years.
Marcus felt his throat tighten. I hope so, baby. I really hope so.
I know so.
Destiny hugged him tight. Mom used to say that love doesn't disappear when someone dies. It just changes shape. It becomes something else. Your mom was a wise woman.
She was.
Destiny pulled back and looked at him with eyes that were so much like Sandra's, it almost hurt.
And I think she would say that what you did, all of it, was love. Love for Uncle James. Love for the truth. Love for all the people Victoria hurt.
She smiled.
That's a lot of love, Dad.
Marcus couldn't speak. He just held his daughter and let the tears fall. They stood like that for a long time in the doorway of their cramped apartment, father and daughter, survivors. Finally, Destiny pulled away.
I'm hungry. Can we order pizza?
Marcus laughed, the first real laugh he had managed in weeks. Yeah, baby, we can order pizza. The launch of the Williams Justice Foundation took place on a warm Saturday morning in early spring. The event was held in the auditorium of a community center on the south side, James's old neighborhood. The same streets where he and Marcus had grown up. The same basketball courts where they had played as children. The same church where their mother had prayed for them every Sunday. Over 300 people attended. Marcus stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. He saw Mrs. Patterson in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. He saw Maria, her arm finally healed, smiling up at him. He saw Samuel Okafor, the journalist who had helped expose Victoria, sitting near the back with a notebook on his knee. And he saw Destiny, front and center, beaming with pride. 23 years ago, Marcus began, my brother James was arrested for crimes he didn't commit. He was 17 years old. He had a scholarship to Howard University. He was going to be an engineer. The room was silent. He spent 2 years in prison. When he got out, he was broken. 3 months later, he took his own life. Marcus paused, gathering himself. For a long time, I blamed myself. I was his older brother. I was supposed to protect him. And I failed. Destiny shook her head slightly, her eyes glistening. But I realize now that the blame doesn't belong to me. It belongs to a system that let a wealthy family destroy an innocent young man because they had money and he didn't. It belongs to a society that looks the other way when the powerful abuse the powerless. It belongs to all of us who stay silent when we should speak up. He looked out at the crowd. This foundation exists to fight that silence, to give a voice to people who have been ignored, to provide legal resources to those who can't afford them, to shine a light on injustice wherever it hides. Marcus held up a photograph of James, the same photograph he had carried in his pocket for 23 years. My brother was innocent. He deserved better. And as long as this foundation exists, we will fight to make sure that no one else suffers the way he did. The audience rose to their feet. The applause went on for several minutes. Marcus stepped away from the podium, and Destiny rushed forward to hug him.
You did it, Dad. You really did it.
We did it, baby. All of us. Alexander Sterling approached them, his face somber but warm. That was a beautiful speech, Marcus. Thank you for making this possible. I just wrote a check. You did the hard part. Alexander looked at the photograph still in Marcus's hand. He looks like a good kid. He was the best kid. Marcus carefully returned the photograph to his pocket. He would have changed the world if he'd had the chance. Maybe he still will. Through you. Through this foundation. Alexander put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. His legacy isn't tragedy, Marcus. His legacy is you. For the first time in 23 years, Marcus believed that might be true. The weeks after the launch were busy. The foundation received over 10,000 applications in its first month. Stories poured in from across the country. People who had been falsely accused, wrongfully convicted, destroyed by a system that didn't care about their innocence. Marcus read every single one. Some nights, he stayed up until 3 a.m., going through files, making notes, trying to figure out who needed help the most urgently. Destiny would find him at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers, his eyes red from exhaustion.
Dad, you need to sleep.
I know, baby. I will.
You say that every night.
And I mean it every night. Destiny would shake her head and make him tea, then sit beside him and help organize the files. She was only 12, but she understood what they were doing. She understood why it mattered.
This one,
she said one night, holding up a folder.
Thomas Reynolds, wrongfully convicted of robbery in 2015. Spent 4 years in prison.
DNA evidence proved he was innocent, but no one would listen. Marcus took the folder and read through it. We can help him. I'll put him on the priority list.
Good,
Destiny yawned.
Now will you please go to bed?
5 more minutes.
Dad. Okay.
Marcus set down the folder and looked at his daughter. When did you become the parent in this relationship?
Someone has to keep you alive.
He laughed and kissed her forehead. I love you, Destiny.
I love you too, Dad. Now go to bed.
He went to bed, and for the first time in as long as he could remember, he didn't dream about James. He dreamed about the future. 1 year after Victoria's sentencing, Marcus received an unexpected visitor. He was in his new office at the Williams Justice Foundation, a real office with windows and a desk and a nameplate on the door, when his assistant knocked. Mr. Williams, there's someone here to see you. She says her name is Catherine Ashford. Marcus froze. Ashford? She says she's Victoria's mother. Marcus's first instinct was to refuse, to tell his assistant to send the woman away and never come back. But something stopped him. Curiosity, maybe, or perhaps something deeper. Send her in. Catherine Ashford was a small woman in her 70s, elegant and frail, with silver hair and eyes that looked like they hadn't stopped crying in months.
Mr. Williams,
her voice was barely above a whisper.
Thank you for seeing me.
Mrs. Ashford, please, sit down. She lowered herself into the chair across from his desk, with the careful movements of someone who had aged decades in a single year.
I know you have every reason to hate me, My family destroyed yours. My daughter destroyed your brother."
Tears began streaming down her face.
"I've come to apologize."
Marcus was silent.
"I knew,"
Catherine's voice cracked.
23 years ago, I knew what Victoria had done. I knew James was innocent. And I helped cover it up."
Why? Because I was a coward. Because my husband said it would ruin us. Because I told myself that one boy's life didn't matter as much as my family's reputation. She sobbed. I've been living with that choice ever since. Every day, every night. I see his face when I close my eyes. I hear his mother's screams. You knew my mother? No, but I imagined her. I imagined what it would be like to lose a child because of someone else's cruelty. Catherine wiped her eyes. I have 3 children, Mr. Williams. Victoria was my oldest, and watching her become what she became, knowing I could have stopped it if I had been stronger, it's the worst kind of torture. Marcus didn't know what to feel. Part of him wanted to rage at this woman, to scream at her for what her family had done, to demand some kind of payment that could never be enough. But another part of him saw something in Catherine's eyes that he recognized. Grief. Guilt. The weight of choices that couldn't be undone. Why are you here, Mrs. Ashford? Because I want to help. Catherine opened her purse and pulled out an envelope. This is a check for $5 million. It's everything I have left. My husband left it to me when he died, and I've been holding on to it because I didn't know what to do with it. She slid the envelope across the desk. I want it to go to your foundation, to help the people my family hurt. It won't bring your brother back, I know that. It won't make up for anything. But maybe it can help someone else. Maybe some good can come from all this evil. Marcus looked at the envelope without touching it. Mrs. Ashford. Please, her voice broke. Please let me do this one thing. Let me die knowing I tried to make amends, even if it's too little, even if it's too late. Please. Marcus studied her for a long moment. He thought about James, about Dorothy Williams, about all the people who had suffered because the Ashford family had chosen their reputation over the truth. And he thought about something his mother used to say. Forgiveness isn't for the person who hurt you. It's for yourself. It's so you can let go of the poison and start to heal. He picked up the envelope. I'll accept this donation on one condition. Anything. I want you to tell your story, publicly. I want you to admit what your family did, what you helped cover up. I want the world to know the truth. Catherine's face went pale. That would destroy what's left of my reputation. Yes, it would. Marcus met her eyes. But it would also help others. Other families who are thinking about covering up their children's crimes. Other powerful people who believe they're above consequences. If they see someone like you standing up and admitting the truth, maybe they'll think twice. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll do it. I'll tell everyone everything. Marcus stood and extended his hand. Then we have a deal, Mrs. Ashford. She shook it with trembling fingers. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you for giving me a chance to make things right. Don't thank me yet. This is going to be hard. I know. A small, sad smile crossed her face. But it's the least I can do. For James. For all the others. And for my own soul. She left the office a few minutes later. Marcus sat alone, staring at the envelope. $5 million. Enough to help hundreds of people. Enough to fund the foundation for years. Blood money, some might call it. But Marcus preferred to think of it differently. It was transformation. Darkness being converted into light. evil being repurposed for good. It was, in its own small way, justice. 2 years after the trial, Marcus stood in a cemetery on the outskirts of Atlanta. Destiny stood beside him, holding a bouquet of flowers. They were in front of a simple headstone. The inscription read, James Marcus Williams, 1982 to 2002. Beloved son and brother, the truth will set you free. Hey, little brother. Marcus's voice was soft. It's been a while. Destiny laid the flowers at the base of the headstone. Hi, Uncle James. I'm Destiny. We've never met, but I feel like I know you. Dad talks about you all the time. She smiled through her tears. He says you had the biggest heart of anyone he ever met. He says you would have loved me. He would have, Marcus whispered. He really would have. They stood in silence for a long moment. I wanted you to know that it's over, Marcus finally said. Victoria is in prison. The truth is out. The whole world knows you were innocent. The wind rustled through the trees. Mom's here too, just over there. Marcus pointed to another headstone a few rows away. I visit her every time I come. Tell her about the foundation, about Destiny, about everything. Destiny took his hand. I miss you, James. Every day. I miss your laugh. I miss your stupid jokes. I miss the way you used to beat me at basketball and then pretend you let me win. Marcus's voice cracked. I miss my little brother. He knelt down and touched the headstone. But I want you to know something. Your death wasn't meaningless. It led me to Victoria. It led me to the foundation. It led me to help hundreds of people who were suffering the way you suffered. He took a breath. Your life mattered, James. It still matters. And as long as I'm alive, I'm going to make sure the world never forgets that. He stood slowly. Destiny hugged him. You okay, Dad? Yeah, baby, I'm okay. He looked at the headstone one last time. I'm finally okay. They walked back to the car together, father and daughter, leaving the cemetery behind. As they drove away, Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror. The headstones grew smaller and smaller until they disappeared entirely. But James wasn't gone. He was in the foundation that bore his name, in the hundreds of people who had been helped because of his story, in Destiny's smile and Marcus's determination, and the countless lives that had been changed. He was everywhere, and he always would be. That night, Marcus sat on the balcony of his new apartment, a real apartment with 2 bedrooms and a view of the city, and watched the sun set. Destiny was inside, doing homework, her music playing softly through the open door. Marcus held a photograph in his hands. Not the photograph of James. He had finally put that one in a frame on his desk, where it belonged. This was a different photograph, an old one, creased and faded. It showed 4 people standing in front of a small house. A mother, a father, and 2 boys, one tall, one short, both grinning at the camera like they had just won the lottery. The Williams family, before everything fell apart. Marcus traced his finger over James's face. We did it, he whispered. We finally did it. The wind stirred the photograph slightly, and Marcus could have sworn he heard his brother's voice, distant but clear. I know, big brother. I always knew you would. Marcus smiled. He put the photograph in his pocket, stood up, and walked back inside. Destiny looked up from her homework. Dad, you okay? I'm perfect, baby. He kissed the top of her head. What do you want for dinner? Can we make Mom's lasagna? Your mom's lasagna takes 3 hours. So? We have time. Marcus laughed. Yeah, I guess we do. They cooked together, father and daughter, laughing and talking and making a mess of the kitchen. And as the smell of lasagna filled the apartment, Marcus realized something. For 23 years, he had been defined by grief, by anger, by the relentless pursuit of justice for his brother. But now, finally, he could be something else. He could be a father, a leader, a man who helped others because he knew what it was like to suffer alone. He could be happy. Not the happiness that comes from revenge or victory. Not the happiness that depends on someone else's suffering. Real happiness. The quiet kind. The kind that comes from knowing you did the right thing, even when it was hard. The kind that comes from family and purpose and peace. Destiny pulled the lasagna out of the oven, perfectly golden on top. "It looks just like Mom's," she said proudly. "It does." Marcus put his arm around her. "She would be so proud of you, Destiny, of the person you're becoming." "She would be proud of you too, Dad." Destiny looked up at him. "For never giving up, for fighting until the end, for being the kind of man Uncle James always knew you could be." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best." They served the lasagna and sat down to eat, the city lights twinkling outside the window, the future stretching out before them like an open road. Marcus raised his glass. "To James, to your mom, to Dorothy, to everyone who helped us get here." Destiny raised her glass too. "And to you, Dad, the bravest man I know." They clinked glasses, and in that moment, surrounded by the warmth of good food and the love of his daughter, Marcus Williams finally understood what his mother had meant all those years ago. Love doesn't disappear when someone dies. It just changes shape. It becomes something else. James was gone. Sandra was gone. Dorothy was gone. But their love lived on, in Destiny's smile, in Marcus's determination, in the foundation that would help thousands of people for generations to come. They were not forgotten. They never would be. And that, Marcus realized, was the only victory that truly mattered. Because in the end, justice wasn't about punishment. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about making the guilty suffer. It was about making sure the innocent were remembered. It was about transforming grief into purpose. It was about choosing light over darkness, hope over despair, love over hate. And Marcus Williams, after 23 years of fighting, had finally made that choice. The darkness was behind him. The light was ahead. And for the first time in his life, he was ready to walk into it.